Are you a solo agent and selling a lot of properties and helping other investors buy properties and thinking, should I be buying property myself? May not even live in your own home, but this is something you still can do. Something to think about. This video is definitely for you because you're selling homes. You're the person handling the deals and brokering everything, but you're not building the wealth for yourself. I'm Alicia Soikawa, the principal broker for the state of Virginia for 5 Realty, revenue share company that's newer to the area and ground level. And I want to talk to you about investment property because this is something that was a really big, I want to have it one day kind of thing. And it's interesting how when you make a decision to do something, it kind of unfolds for you. So if this is something you're looking to do, make a decision, you're going to do it, and then the answers will kind of show up. First of all, that's my first suggestion. But most agents kind of think, I'll do that later. I'll save a bunch of money. I'll have my 30% down or whatever, that you'll buy cash or whatever have you. And you keep pushing, kicking the can down the road, thinking that there's not an opportunity for you to get into the game. But the truth is most agents are perfectly positioned actually to invest, to get into the game of investment and still don't, or they emotionally invest and they end up in a bad situation and with a lot of regret and thinking, oh my gosh, what have I done? I should not have done this. And so that's why it's really important to think is, you want to do this, you want to do it smart and calculated, but you want to also think about, what am I leaving on the table by not investing? So what do you have to lose, right? So today I want to talk to you about how solo agents, especially if you're doing so much work and you don't have time to do that on top of it, that I'm sure is like freaking you out on top of it. You need to think about personal investment property as an added arm to your business because it's still real estate and it potentially could bring you more profits without you out there cranking all day long doing the deals over and over and over. And the big thing is to not be impulsive. So when we're doing here, I'm not telling you to go and just buy something. It's about thinking about strategically and planning ahead. So why this comes up for agents, because agents, especially solo agents, because a certain production level, meaning like if you've surpassed 30, 40, 50 deals and you're a solo agent and you're doing this on your own, the commission starts to feel unstable because some years you may do 50, some years you may do 25, and then you have this lifestyle that's at 50 deals, and then you may have a 25 year just because it's an off year for whatever reason, right? And agents start asking, like, how do I create stability? It's like the roller coaster of the real estate business. Everyone's like up and down, up and down. And what happens if I get sick? I had an illness that took me out of the game. What if you have a baby? What if you need to care for someone else? What if you have something that happens, you can't work for whatever reason? How do you stop starting over every January, right? Where you don't have anything coming in and you're at zero, because we're basically unemployed every day in real estate. So that's usually where the idea of investing shows up, and you see people do it in all different ways. HGTV has actually glamorized it all and has made us see that we can do everything DIY, which is not always the case. It's that instinct, it's the execution that matters. So you may have great intent, but if you're not doing anything and not executing on it, it's all these, but the world is paved with good intentions kind of idea. So it's execution that matters. So the 3 lens framework for agent investing, I want you to think about and consider is the cash flow versus ego. And that's the first lens. And that's the biggest one to think about. A lot of times people buy bunches of investment properties to feel successful. They buy in areas that are really in their mind, oh, I got land, or it's cheap, or this tiny property, it's coming up, without really thinking about what's going to happen with this property. Does it actually cash flow? They don't look at the numbers. And so if it doesn't cash flow, or you don't have a way for it to cash flow, it doesn't support a long-term strategy for you. It doesn't matter, how cheap this property is. It could be like $100,000 or $50,000. If it doesn't cash flow, it's a negative, right? It's in the red. And it's not an investment. It becomes a liability with good branding because you think about it as being great. So you have to ask yourself, does this property pay me monthly, every month? And does it rely on appreciation and hope? Okay, so there should be some data around these numbers or a comparative analysis that you can do based on the area and what you think you could get for it. And agents already live on that variable income, so you don't want to risk your investment property as a variable income. Your investments should be stable or stabilize you and give you that stability of, I know at least if I have 3 investment properties or even one investment property, and it always gives me at least $1,500 a month, that's at least that money I know I'm going to get every single month, and that will cover this. And rinse and repeat that same model over and over. So that's not the volatility. So then if the market does shift, you have this stable income that's coming in that can kind of counteract what's going on there and give you some peace of mind. The second lens we're going to look at is looking at time leverage, not just money. Time leverage, not just money, because time is money. Time is our greatest asset, right? So some properties look really good on paper and then destroy your time. Oh my gosh, the money pit, right? If you're still a solo producer, time is your most valuable asset, right? So we talked about buy back your time in my last video about making sure you're scaling and doing the things that you're doing that you're supposed to be doing and outsourcing the rest. If that's the case, anything that creates a constant interruption can be very expensive to you. So if you need something that's that's low drama, low maintenance, and boring investments are the ones that are going to win. Someone that has a long-term tenant, someone that you're not going to go in and out, someone that's not going to cause problems or chasing the rent or causing issues down there, right? So boring is beautiful. Just remember that when you're building a business, right? Just the boring, the routine is what you want to keep up. The third is going to be the identity shift, right? Operator versus owner. We talked about that before. It's such a hard thing because we have such a control issue. Like agents have such a control freak issue. And it's the biggest thing that we see is that owning property does force you to shift, right? You have to go from an earner to an allocator, like from a closer to an owner, from income to assets. Are your assets growing? I'm getting ready to go to finance, and my coach mentioned to me, he said, your cash flow may not be what you want it to be, but what are your assets? What have your assets grown from last year? And I thought, wow, that's a great way to look at it, right? And it's something really important to think about. So if you don't have a design around investments around your lifestyle, it will consume you. So think about how much time you have. You know, do you want another job? Is it something that is an asset that's growing over time? And that's something to think about, right? So common agent investing mistakes to think about. And I know there's a lot of videos probably out here, but this is just my take on it, right? So I have an investment property and we're looking to do some other things. And I'm part of a JV partnership with a title company. And I have my coaching. So I have like different areas that are bringing me more stable money. Here are some mistakes people make: are buying emotionally, like we talked about before, because I love it, I want it, this is in my old neighborhood, etc. Over leveraging during good years because you're just assuming that it's a great year and that you're going to have all of this, so you can take on all these other properties that are going to cost you money, but you're not necessarily going to be sure that you can rent them out or get what you want from them. Not separating your business income from investing capital, that's completely needs to be separate. Chasing shiny strategies like only doing Airbnbs. And if you have an Airbnb model that works and you know how to systemize it, I'm not talking about those people. I'm talking about people that have this whole romantic idea about doing a flip. I'm going to buy it and flip it and make all this money, and they have no idea what they're getting into, and it's scary, and they haven't thought about the downside of it, right? And so those are the kind of thing. And partnerships, be really careful for who you partner with. And partnerships can be wonderful, but you'll have to also remember, make sure it's on paper, make sure it's legal, make sure you read, get your attorney to look at that partnership and make sure it makes sense. Ignoring reserves and risks. This is a big one, ignoring reserves and risks. You don't need to be aggressive to build wealth in real estate. You just actually need to be conservative and think about, like, does this make sense for your long-term strategy, not just in 1 year, 2 years, 3 years. You need to be consistent and intentional, like before you go into it. If I know I want to have 30 doors, or I know I want to have 50 doors, meaning 50 homes or 50 doors. Or if you have a one unit that's like 10 doors, like a small little mini setup, like it's like a multifamily setup, that's something to think about as well. They're harder to find. So those are kind of things to think about, right? So what a smart first investment often looks like for many solo agents are going to be like house hacking. You live in the house and you rent out the rest if you're younger, or if you don't have that, you have the ability to do that, or if you have a basement that you can rent out, that's house hacking. You're getting rent for that part of your house. It's like your rental part. Long-term rentals. I have a midterm now, which I love. So it's like 3 months at a time. It's furnished, but we make quite a good amount of money and it's less headache. Small multifamilies, conservative, new construction, meaning they do a rent back for a long time and they kind of explain what that process is and you'll have it for a long term. I've had a lot of clients that partook in that and it's actually really smart. And then it's not because they're not exciting, it's just because they know they have a more stable cash flow. So it's a great way to get your feet wet, to try it out, to see if I like the investing route. Some tech ownership for fundamentals. The learning curve is not as crazy. You're not having to fix everything and things don't have to be crazy. Sometimes you can buy a home that already has a tenant in place that's been there for years, so you know that money is going to be coming in consistently and you don't have to then find someone to put there. That's a great deal, I think, right? And it doesn't distract you from production when you do this too. Like you can do this and put it aside. You can hire a property management company if you want, or my husband helps me a lot with ours. And that's a really big factor if you have a family member that can help you, because a lot of it's just paperwork and follow up and you have like a handyman that helps you, things like that. You don't build wealth by swinging big early. You have to think about people doing this really small. Unless you have a big buffer behind you, a lot of money to protect you from it. You build by staying in the game long enough, and it's over the long term. It's just like stocks and bonds. Everything is long-term growth. Like looking over time is what you're going to look at. So if selling real estate gives you the access to get to properties, like our property we found because I was going to sell it for her, and I asked her if she would be interested if I bought it, and she loved that idea. So think about that when you're listing people's homes. Is that something potential that you would want to purchase and you could do something, right? So owning real estate gives you leverage. We know that you can take money out of it and buy something else, but you have to be really careful and make sure that you're leveraging it correctly. And if you get a type of loan, sometimes they don't let you leverage that money out. So you have to think about what type of loan you're getting if you're doing that, or if you're using hard money loan, that's a different avenue, or if you're using cash from other other investors that are partnering with you. So think about how the framework is if you're partnering with investors, like contractors that are helping you do things, or if you're a contractor yourself. Those are things and numbers you have to work out and figure out for yourself to see like, hey, this is what's fair for everybody involved, right? So that's why it's easier to kind of go in, dipping your toes in with something that's more simple, like buy the property, close on the property, get a tenant in there, get your rent, pay the mortgage down, and rinse and repeat until it gets paid off. You have a long-term rental, you have an asset that's going to continue to grow, right? It's pretty cool. If you're thinking about investing, or you want to grow and stay empowered and do different things, and thinking about other types of businesses that you could do with that kind of, I guess, is a springboard from real estate that supports your real estate business, and it's not like complete side, like off the wall that cannot run with it. This is an opportunity for you to get into the game. And if you're not in the game, this is something I highly suggest you do. Get into it, figure it out for yourself. And if you have a spouse that you're in the business with, it's a great thing to do together. My husband and I enjoy doing it together. There are some great real estate investing conferences locally. A lot of them are online as well, and you can look into that too. So love to know how many doors you have. If you already have investment property, or if you want to have investment property, what type of property you want to have. Comment below. If you like this kind of content, subscribe. Till then, stay empowered. Remember, buy back your time. See you later.